Good morning and welcome, and afternoon if you're somewhere else in the world. It's the 17th of February. How are you doing today? We've got lots to talk about. Unfortunately, the can we say scripted version or the posted version or something? Anyway, Russ can't be with us, who's from working for BMW today. He's now scheduled for next Wednesday. He's in a meeting that he couldn't get out of. Possibly something to do with Ford announcing that all their cars are going to be electric in the UK. But we'll talk about that and some other things after the headlines. UN to raise Princess Latifa cause with the UAE. The detention of the daughter of Dubai's ruler was also described as deeply troubling by the UK. The world's first human COVID trials to start in the UK. Healthy young volunteers are being recruited to be given COVID for an approved study which will start shortly. Horrific trolling hidden from Captain Sir Tom Moore. The 100-year-old's daughter says the criticism would have broken his heart. 7 symptoms should trigger a COVID test. Fatigue, headache, sore throat and diarrhea are also warning signs of the virus, research suggests. And COVID vaccine teenagers, I want to play my part. Some 300 volunteers will take part in the first coronavirus vaccination trial on children and young adults. So, who do we have in today? Grant is here. Hello, Grant.
How you doing?
Fine. Have I got any hiss today?
Well, I've got to say you're sounding exquisite today, Matt. Your dulcet tones are, they're perfect.
What a wonderful way after you insulted me so much on Monday. We've got it nailed now. We know what it is. All to do with some testing we did yesterday, and we've got Andy Moore in as well.
Good morning.
Good morning, and how are you?
Very well, thanks. Very well.
Jolly good. Jolly good. Oh, hello, we've got a full team in. Mr. Linton's in.
You right, gents?
Yes.
Oh my God, Andy Moore's here. Oh God.
Right, so I'm going to kick things off because I've got a couple of things to talk about which I've picked up on today, and this is probably more for Grant and Mark actually, regarding the spy pixels that are in emails that have become an epidemic, says the BBC. The use of invisible tracking tech in emails is now epidemic, according to a message service that analyses its traffic for the BBC request. Now, tracking in emails is nothing new. It's been around for donkey's years, hasn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
Straight into Mark.
I clearly don't use
you do, because if you use MailChimp or Constant Contact or any of those, they have tracking pixels in there, because how do you know if it's opened? Because that's the main thing for MailChimp is what we use when you send a campaign out. It tracks where it's opened, who it's opened by, how many times it's been opened. But with all those services, they've all sort of opted in to the service. So I'm not sure what systems they're talking about. Are these just in general emails? I'm not sure. Grant, have you heard about this?
No, I mean, I've not heard this story, because obviously, every time we send out any marketing emails to our database, we get to see the open rates, you get to see the click-through rates. So you need to have a form of tracking in order to do that. And it must be something a bit more detailed than that. Is it a spy pixel? Did you say?
Yeah, it's called. Let me just read the rest of the review here. Hayes' review indicated that 2/3 of emails sent to its users' personal accounts contained a spy pixel, even after excluding for spam. Its makers said that many of the largest brands use email pixels, with the exception of the big tech firms. Well, I'm not sure about this, because that's the way it is, isn't it?
I mean, you get tracking pixels on websites. I mean, I've never heard of a spy. I mean, bearing in mind, I'm not techie. I kind of, obviously, the team take care of the tech side of things. But like I said, even Gmail, your standard Gmail providers and email service providers give you data about whether somebody's opened an email or not, and that's commonplace. So for people to be suggesting that is a spy pixel, there must be more to it than that, I can only assume.
Well, yeah, because the review says was tested on several emails. I'm reading it at the same time I'm talking here, and it was tested on several of the emails from their users' personal accounts. But if they're being marketed by whoever they are, then they are tracked. I mean, it goes on to say defenders of the trackers say they are commonplace in marketing, and usually email pixels can be used to log if and when an email is opened, how many times it is opened, which we've already said, what device or devices are involved, and the user's rough location. It doesn't give you an actual physical address. It gives a rough location.
It's IP address.
It's
and that, again,
based on the IP.
Knowledge. We call it AI, and we use it on our websites as well.
That's right.
And that, it's very easy to see where the IP address is, and that gives you a rough idea of the area in which the person is in. And that's how you can break down demographics if you want to, target people in a particular location. There's been quite a lot of stuff about this because obviously Apple changed some of their service agreements in terms of the way that their advertising works and the way that phones and so on manage data. Yeah. And for me, this whole sort of question about privacy and so on is. It's kind of a double-edged sword in a way, because from a marketing point of view, let's say, for example, we are using Facebook to run ads, and those ads are supposed to be targeting people that would find the products and services that you're offering as of interest, because obviously you want to sell them. And Facebook provide demographics right down to, what job they've got, how old they are, where they are in the world, what interests they've got by getting all of the data that Facebook gathers according to how somebody uses the Facebook software. And that is then given to advertisers in order to be able to advertise to those people. And a lot of people get sort of really upset by this, thinking that our privacy has been, damaged and there's intrusions into our privacy. But the goal is it's not really supposed to manipulate people. It's supposed to provide people with content that is of interest to them. That's why it works.
Well, in the older days, we'll say older days, when they used to newspapers and magazines, when there was plenty of magazines out there of all different types of sorts. A marketer would look at the different types of demographics that read those newspapers and magazines, and then advertise specifically for them. It's only the same way on Facebook, isn't it?
It's just more detail.
I have to laugh at this because last night my wife sat me down, and I'm sure, in a good way, but she sat me down to watch Netflix, the program on social media, and it was eye-wateringly scary as to where you are in the location, especially with the Google. What you're searching would be determined on pretty much what your past history was, as to your viewpoints, as to what news feeds I put up. And I thought, really? So it's a case of if you saying what's going on with COVID right now, and your viewpoints are pretty much, this is awful, liberties are being taken away, all the rest of it, then what feed you're getting up is what you've likened to, and the whole manipulation of these artificial intelligence. And Mark Zuckerman's been brought into account for this, because they're saying now that they need AI to teach the AI to stop this from happening, fake news and all the rest of it. That's just a load of that's where people, I think, are coming from the scariness as to so when you say that it's not guiding the way we think and do things. Well, it is, isn't it? It's changing, and they fear in another 10, 20 years' time, if we do not stop this, then governments and the likes are going to be toppled, not by Asians, but simply by social media. And I thought it was interesting.
Well, it is. I mean, that's even that documentary you watched, which is, you're slightly late to the train there, Mark. It was out a few months back, but that is slightly. I know, it's just, I'm just saying, because it's dated already. That program is. That documentary. Sorry, but that's just the way it is.
Andy, have you seen it yet? Can't help me out here, mate.
Andy doesn't care.
I think there's that we're talking about two different things here, though, aren't we? You know, the way that we are marketed to by the social media platforms, based on what it is that we're interested in, is kind of one side of it. In fact, there's three different elements to this that I think are worthy of debate. And I don't see anything wrong with that, because a bit like Matt said, it's just a more detailed way of giving us information that we should already be interested in. Mark picked up on something there, though, that is a real concern. It's the quality of the stuff that we're given and whether it's true or not. So when we're fed fake news, when we're fed information that isn't qualified based on, you know, whatever rabbit hole we've gone down, the problem that I see with social media and the internet on the whole is that we can be manipulated with stuff that isn't true. But having said that, just the same way as we have been on the TV for decades, you know, the amount of fake news that you get, we've been manipulated by the radio, by the TV, and now we're being manipulated, you know, by social media. It's the same thing, really.
I mean, people need to stop calling it.
Just in there, the law. The law is very prescriptive. Radio, TV, newspaper, anything like those are regulated by law. Social media isn't. So that's why they get away with fake news. And that's why Donald Trump got away with such whoppers. So they are regulated. I mean, you will have to take them to court. That's why so many newspapers get taken to court by people saying that they slandered them, they did this and they did that. And in a lot of cases, they win some, they lose some. So so there is a big difference. In fact, I'm just trying to get a client to actually complain to the BBC about the abuse of one of their the position of abuse for one of their journalists. The client won't do it because they don't have the same vigor as me in terms of fighting. You know, I like a good scrap, especially a legal one, not a physical one. So, yeah, but fact of the matter is, these organisations are regular, and in the case of the BBC, look, we the taxpayer own the BBC. And, you know, they are accountable to the taxpayer and so forth. So we shouldn't be afraid for that. What actually Matt, ring the bells of celebration. I'm actually going to compliment the government for a change.
All right, no. There you go. I've got a siren. Where's the bell?
and the government, some of the politicians are calling for regulation of social media, which they've escaped to it so far, and they are more powerful than TV, radio, and newspapers anyway now, and they should be regulated as far as I'm concerned.
I think with social media, you've got to be careful, because you've got a free, open platform that anybody can put anything on. And so, who are you regulating? The people who put the stuff on there, or the people who own the platform? Now,
you have to regulate the platform. The people who own the platform.
You've got to regulate the platform. Okay, that's fair enough, because you'll go backwards there. Yeah, because if you start regulating it too heavy, the people who want free speech and don't put anything which is not fake news on there, and just wants to blurt out whatever they feel, they'll feel like they're being.
You and I have had experience of what I'm about to say now. Is the social media platforms, if somebody puts a clip on about Premier Football Club or even international football, it is immediately removed by the social media platform, because they are breaching copyright, and they can be sued for that, right? And the fact of the matter is, if they can move quickly to remove that, why can't they remove the fake news, the hate crime, and all that?
You've only got to look at just going like my show on a Friday night on Facebook. You know, every 17 minutes we're kicked off because we're playing copyrighted material, and all they do is kick us off. But they are so quick on that. It's an easy fix, though. That's an easy fix, because they've got special algorithms and they use Shazam to check the copyright of the music and stuff like that. But when you've got news which is really close to normal news, and it's fake as well, it's difficult they've got to work it out if it is fake news, because they don't want to start taking real news off, because that would be even worse.
Yeah, it's the BBC.
Yeah.
Warn Andy about having that phone on where you're having a conversation. Unbelievable.
Should have it on mute. So let's just move on to the point. As we're talking about this, and we're talking about privacy, this will segue into another section I want to talk about. there's a lot of Darren's joined us as well. My God, we've got a full complement here now. Look at this. So, morning, Darren. Afternoon. So, obviously, on the privacy side of things, there's a report out this morning that employers are saying that people can't come back to work in a customer-facing job unless they've been vaccinated. Now, how does everybody feel about that? Grant, how do you feel about that?
Well, my initial reaction to that, I think there was a plumbers, wasn't it? A plumbing company that said that.
Plumbers.
Yeah. My initial reaction to that was it sounded a bit odd. I was trying to put logic behind it, but it was what Darren said the other day when he said about, the purpose of sort of keeping the restrictions going is that although the people below 50, aren't who are healthy aren't necessarily at risk as such, they could pass the virus on, and that gives it more opportunity to mutate, making the vaccination no longer effective. So I kind of get it from that point of view. I just wish, I just wish that when somebody comes out with a statement like that, they would explain the thinking behind it, so it was nice and clear for everyone. Because until Darren said that to me, I'm like, well, what's the point of that?
Well, you see, they had a lawyer on this morning talking about this, because they're saying one of those lawyers who, I don't know what that means, but it's one of those lawyers who's fighting for the people, for the people. And basically, if they were a forward-fronting, customer-facing business, like a pub, let's say it's a pub, and the pub could advertise, all our staff are vaccinated, come in. Now, if they've got another pub where there's one person in there who goes, I'm not having the vaccine because it's going to inject a silicon chip into my body, then, can you force that person to have the jab? Obviously, you can't. But then again, they're being a dickhead then, aren't they? Because it's like, if they've got to have the vaccine to help the whole situation. And then lawyer was... Yeah.
Sorry, Matt, go on. So what the lawyer
I was just going to say, this is what the lawyer was saying. So the lawyer got into the point of saying that, no, a business cannot say to their employee they have to have the jab. That's what he was saying this morning.
I don't think anybody should be dictated to that you have to have a vaccine. And I advocate the vaccine. I'll be having it as soon as it's out and everything else for obvious reasons. But I don't think that we should be dictated to for any vaccine. We shouldn't be told that we should have to have something injected into our body. And there are other reasons. So, there'll be people who can't have it. So if they can't have it, can they not work? If they physically aren't, for medical reasons, can't have it. There'll be religious reasons why they can't have it. There'll be lots. And also, weirdly, I've got a friend, a kite surfing friend, and now he blames the vaccine. Now his wife's a nurse and he's very pro-vaccine up to that point, but he had the vaccine. His mother-in-law had the vaccine, and I think another member of the family. His mother-in-law died shortly after the vaccine. He was hospitalised shortly after the vaccine, and so was and his other family member was also very ill. So they
just after having the vaccine.
After having the vaccine and pro-vaccine, and his wife is a nurse as well.
Right.
So they were he's now blaming the vaccine for that outcome. And in certain instances, in very small percentages, please God, that might be the case, that the vaccine will have a negative impact, like all vaccines. You'll go and read your paracetamol box or your contraceptive box or whatever, and there will be. I know that you still take them, Matt.
What?
But I know, but I know there will be. There'll be possible very, very detrimental side effects, or even worse. On some of them, and please God, that's a small percentage. But because of that, we shouldn't be dictating that someone can't go in. But it's funny because my band member said exactly the same. It's a sorry state if we have to have a vaccine passport of some description to go into a music venue or across. It's really, really hard. I'm hoping that common sense will prevail.
But why can't you have something that says you've had the vaccine? Why can't you have something?
No, but I think that, I agree that to say that you're safer, it will be discriminative, won't it? You'll start to discriminate against certain places. because of that. But then again, so if you say that I'm going to employ people who have physical illnesses and whatever else, and none of them can have that vaccine, then everyone's going to avoid that premises because of that. They're going to discriminate, and probably, again, we're talking about small minorities, aren't we? But nevertheless,
that's what it is. It's just
are we going to say that if you haven't got smallpox or a measles vaccine, that you can't go to a gig, or if you haven't got where do you draw the line? Where do you draw the line about saying you have to have this vaccine?
I'll let somebody else speak. Go on.
Now, I've got a care home client who won't. Some, as you've probably read in the news, some care home staff, quite a big percentage, are not having the vaccine. Right, so he's at a care home. He's made a simple rule: you either get vaccinated or you're not working in my care home. Simple as that, and that is for the good of his 70 odd tenants, whatever you call care home residents. I have to say I agree with him 100%.
I agree with that situation.
Because
but also
he's working with really vulnerable people there.
But vaccine passports, you're going to have them whether you like it or not. British Airways are trialling vaccine passports now for flying. And if you don't have a vaccine passport, you won't be getting on the plane to certain places. That's a fact.
I think, let me just make a quick point. I think they should have a badge to say that they haven't had the vaccine. Then you can just don't talk to somebody like that. Just go away. Or the side of the street. Big hat. I'm an idiot, except for the people who can't have it. But for the people who choose not to have it, big badge, I haven't had a vaccine.
It's like
the scanners.
With the green thing, I'm exempt from wearing a mask.
That's it.
I feel like going up to them saying, great, but you're not exempt from the virus and dying, you idiot.
Yeah. Anyway, Grant wanted to make a point. He's waiting very patiently in the middle.
No, I didn't.
Okay, I thought you were okay. All right. You haven't spoken for 5 minutes. I just thought you wanted to say something, Mark.
Andy Moore on the call. We can't get a word in edgeways, but what I want to say is this. What we are finding, and this probably hits where Darren comes into this as well. Having a badge that says, "Look, I've had the vaccine. I'm all clear," or not. I'm being discriminated against. We've already seen it. We've already seen it in as much as this lockdown. We're near the end of it now, and I feel that the ordinary person has got to the point of what the F? What are we doing? And I mean that. It's half term this week. I've never seen so many people in the park exercising than I've seen right now. And the other day, we're there, and a 14-year-old was spouting off to a parent how they were irresponsible for standing around. And she simply said this: when you've got as old as I have, and you've seen as much as I have, you can start lecturing me about what I can and can't do. And we simply said, if you've got an issue, call the police. Because at the end of the day, where are our civil liberties? We're going out. We cannot allow our children who are 6, 7, or 8 to go to the park on their own. And that's what we're doing. But we're having to deal with this. And people start to see the cracks because they're like finger pointing and saying, you shouldn't be going out. You shouldn't be doing this. When is it going to stop? We've had our liberties taken away from them. So none of us are questioning it. And I get how serious the vaccine is. Of course, the pandemic is and getting the vaccine in the marketplace. So if you're not going to have it, more for you. I'm going to go and have it. My sister said to me the other day, a friend of mine, you're not going to have the AstraZeneca one. A friend of hers who's got underlying issues. She slept for 3 days. If that's the worst that can happen to me, sleep for 3 days.
Oh, I'd love to sleep for 3 days.
3 days sleeping?
Yeah.
God,
I'm having it now.
Yeah. Well, I think you're right, Mark. And I think that the reality is that should we just not leave it? I know that we've all said that the public don't have any common sense, but the reality is the majority of the public.
I'm surprised we have so many visitors, viewers still when we say stuff like that, but it's true.
Yeah. And I'm talking about the people on the call actually, but no, I think shouldn't we be there will be a massive amount, and anti-vaxxers, regardless of whether it's this pandemic or whatever else, are always going to be there, and let them have that choice. We are injecting chemicals into people's bodies, and we are having a lot of trust. I trust, But it doesn't mean that everybody has to have that view. But what we do know with vaccines is the majority will follow suit. We do know that the majority of people will be vaccinated, and certainly in this pandemic, the majority of us will go up there. If it's in my eyeball, you can go and stick it in there because I've got to get out of this house. But the majority of people will be the same, you know, and so do we just, rather than going round like the scanners and screaming and pointing at somebody who hasn't got a badge, you know, it is, remember the scanners when they used to make that screaming noise and point? Rather
is that the body snatchers or the scanners? That's body snatchers.
You're right, you use the body snatchers.
Scanners is the one with the head blew
head explodes, yeah, that's right. Rather than doing that, do we just, common sense prevails that the majority of us and the minority will be such a minority that it won't encourage mutation and everything else. And I don't know. I just don't feel that this police state of you have to, and if you don't, you are complete and utter idiot. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely advocate the vaccine, but nevertheless, I'm not sure whether we should be literally going around judging every person who doesn't have that badge that says I'm not vaccinated, and then question them and interrogate them why they haven't had that vaccine. It just doesn't feel right to me. I'm not in this PC world of nanny state, and we've got all our civil liberties. I want to live, you know what I mean? So first and foremost. But on the flip side, let's get some balance.
As the jokes that's going around on all the platforms at the moment is that let's stop arguing about having the vaccine. Let's have the vaccine now, and then we can go and argue this in the pub.
Yeah.
And that's it.
For the next 3 years.
We're missing out those arguments on a Monday night. That's what we're doing. Right, quickly, the roadmap for Britain coming out, it will take till July. It's been released this morning. So Easter, well, this is not the official, this is the newspaper doing it, so it could mean anything.
What do you?
I know, yeah, I know. Direct hotline to Johnson, you see. But they're saying Easter reopening limited to self-catered holiday lets and larger hotels. That's happening at Easter. May, restaurants and pubs open with 2 households indoors and the rule of 6 outdoors. The rule of 6 is coming back. June, venues will be allowed to expand to the rule of 6 indoors. And July, industry bosses told leisure and UK tourism will be broadly back to normal. Anybody's thoughts on that?
Interesting, because we would, like say, looking at 2 holiday parks, and we're looking at a new one down in St Ives, and communication has been quite slow, and I think this is why, is they're edging their bets. They have no idea what they're going to do, and it sounds like they're going to let them take a little bit of money in the spring, spring is a big money turner, certainly is for us, not like the autumn, but yeah, they're going to say, but well, you can make up for it in the summer. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, let's hope so.
This is it. I mean, we planned, tentatively planned face-to-face meetings from the end of April with this whole in mind. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But, when I spoke to one restaurant owner way back, in November last year, and we said, look, we're looking to book to the end of May. He said, if we're not able to open up in May for any type of business, especially business events, we won't be here. So it's got to be seen that we're going to open up again.
Yeah.
No, that's true. Andy, what's your thoughts on it? Do you think that plan is logical, or do you think we should
I'm
be
more
holding back?
concerned about opening up too early, and if they everybody keeps banging on about schools, and they've got to learn the lesson. The wave started in September. The so-called Kent strain or UK strain was detected in September. It was allowed to run right through the country without any checks, and we are suffering. We're all in lockdown today because of that reason, right? So I don't think the schools should be going back on March the 8th. The fact of the matter is we've got to take this very slowly if we want to actually avoid another lockdown. And the problem is we've got a few backbencher MPs who are writing to the Prime Minister. The same ones who did it last time. They got it wrong last time and they're getting it wrong again. So my view is straightforward. We've got to be very cautious. Caution is our friend. Complacency is our enemy. It's as simple as that. And everybody must be cautious. I double mask now because of the new transmissible virus. I double mask. If I go to a supermarket,
I started doing it now since you told me.
I avoid it because the 2 strains now, which is the Kent or the UK strain and the South African strain, are much, much more transmissible.
Sorry, why do you double mask? Why do you double mask, Andy?
The double mask is basically giving you double the protection.
No, masks have never been about protection. They've always been about transmissibility to other people.
Protection has transmissibility.
So you giving other people, so your double responsibility.
It also gives you protection. Darren, I was in SARS 2003. I know all about.
Really?
Didn't know that.
I know all about.
Yeah.
I know all about. And double mask do give you protection, Darren. 100%. 100%. Why do you
not
think
100% protection, but some protection.
No,
some
no,
protection.
Give you 100% protection, not even a vaccine.
Matt, come on.
Double mask against the virus, right? Think about it. It's logical. A physical barrier between me and anything else coming towards me will afford some protection. That's why.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It gives you some protection. I just don't believe it gives you, masses of protection. I think it's false to think that the mask is going to protect you from coronavirus.
The war,
because your eyes, the outside of it, touch the outside of it, touch your eyes.
The war on the virus, which is what the government hasn't treated it as, is a multi-pronged attack. It's just like a normal conventional war. They use the Air Force, the Navy, and the troops on the ground. Unfortunately, the government didn't treat it like a war, and that's why we're in this mess we're in. France at the moment, along with half a dozen other countries, has a curfew from 6 till 6 a.m. nationally in France, enforced by armed police, armed army, and the army.
I'll tell you what, give us a curfew then, 6 till 6, and I'll happily go out during the day, because this cannot continue. I get what you're saying, caution. They've got the vaccinations, speed up the vaccinations, get everyone vaccinated by the end of April and say lockdown's over then.
The problem is, unfortunately, there's 10,000 new cases a day. Do you know what the case numbers when we lifted lockdown in July last year?
Yeah.
We're at 600 a day. We're still at 10,000, in fact, over 10,000 yesterday. New cases.
Who are the dickheads who keep getting this?
You cannot lift the lockdown. What?
I don't understand how people are still getting it. Stay away from each other.
The thing is, the whole thing about statistic about cases is kind of a ridiculous number to quote, because it's got to depend on how many people have been tested.
Well, of course.
So, it's a ridiculous. I don't. That's why I've never.
I think the only thing about that though, Grant, is they worked on percentages. I did question that myself, and it's the percentage. Yeah, and I think that's what they say. So if there's 100 people tested and 20 had it, and I think they do still see a ramp up, even though I agree what you're saying that the testing at the start would be much less. Yeah, absolutely. And there has to be a failure rate as well. They must know a percentage failure rate as well. But I think anyway, Andy, I think you should demonstrate that mask, the double mask, on the next show for the whole show. I think that'd be really good.
You won't be able to hear him.
Exactly.
I've tested. I've spoken on the phone with double mask, no problem.
Oh, bugger.
Well, that's when you're answering it. One of those sex lines you're doing, isn't it? Anyway. That is it for today, everybody.
Can I just say something for all the viewers and you guys? I was watching TV this morning, and a website I'm actually on now called Drive and Listen. Anybody ever heard of it? Drive and Listen.
Go on.
And basically lets you take a drive around cities of the world. I'm actually driving through Toronto at the moment, and it's fantastic.
Is it visual as well? There's a camera.
On your screen, you got a picture.
Yes, I did.
You can do that on VR. On Oculus, you can go to loads of places in the world and see it in 3D. It's awesome.
Go on your little static bike. Can you be
and then you can play music as well. They'll play music if you want.
I'll tell you what. Just briefly, Andy, you got this sorted. We don't need about a lockdown. We just watch this Drive and Listen program for the next 12 months.
That'll do it.
Perfect.
I thought it was about battery cars anyway. I thought we were talking about battery cars.
That's therapeutic.
Right, I was about to say that at the end. If you had tuned in to discuss about battery cars, then Russ, who works for BMW, he's stuck in a meeting, so we've moved it to next Wednesday. That's when we're going to do it. So I do apologise.
Well, just for that then, Land Rover said they're going to make every car battery by 2025, didn't they? They're not going to make any more petrol.
JLR have. And Ford have announced that this morning as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all sort of doing it. I think that was the meeting he was in talking about.
Okay.
Right. That's it, gentlemen. Thank you very much. We will see you all on Friday. It's been very enjoyable today. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks.